Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the December 11th, 2023 Mason City Council meeting. Can I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Spaeth?
Here.
Vice Mayor Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett?
Here.
Councilmember Hackey?
Yes.
Councilmember Gibson?
Yes, here.
Councilmember Stricula?
Here.
Mayor Nelson?
Here. Okay, can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will need a motion to approve the minutes from the November 11th council meeting and the December 1st reorganizational meeting.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Roll call. Do we need roll call for it? Nope. We don't need roll call. Okay, great. City Manager's report.
Got a couple of items, Mayor. Actually, I have several items. Last meeting of the year. First item of business, ORC requires that council members attend a public records law training or to designate an alternate, an official designee. As in years past, the recommendation is a motion to appoint Dan Chambers as the elected official designee would suffice.
Okay, would anyone like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed?
Secondly, just want to, as a point of interest for council as well as the public, December 1st of this year was significant both for swearing in and organizing a new council, but there were also several significant actions taken. The city continuing to improve our debt position. There was, and a lot of credit goes to the city's finance director, Joe Riegelsberger, for minding this, making sure that we are enjoying the best interest rates possible and utilizing debt. It was a tool for the financial health of the city, and then making sure that we're mindful of how we reduce that. So there was $4.3 million of outstanding debt that was paid off on the 1st. That is in addition to multiple years of significant payments made to pay down the principal of that debt. After all of those payments, the city's current debt position has been reduced from 53.8 to 49.5 million this year. And consider how much lower that is than the debt position in 2009 of nearing $100 million. Now, part of that is because of the growth of the city and being able to utilize debt to enhance the growth and the amenities, but also it is significant to show how rapidly we've been able to bring that down. That includes earlier this year, the payoff of the water reclamation plant outstanding debt, which nearly immediately resulted in benefit to Mason residents when we're able to lower, unlike all other communities nearly, lower the sewer rates for residents. The 2024 budget, which we'll talk about later on the agenda, continues this pattern. Also want to acknowledge Mason is wrapping up the year of celebrating our ranking as 4th best place to live. We've been partnered with Tri-Health and each month finding activities that were aimed at building a healthier, stronger community. To conclude that year-long celebration, the City of Mason is continuing to highlight opportunities to shop local throughout the month of December. There is the Shop Small Holiday Passport Initiative, where Mason residents that support small businesses during their holiday shopping by patronizing 5 small businesses in Mason can enter their completed passport to receive a Come Together Mason gift card to help them further their support of Mason small businesses. Details are available on the city's website. And welcome news, I think tonight, maybe a little early given some of our business on the agenda, but do have word that Santa will make one final stop at the Mason Community Center. That's on this Thursday, December 14th from 6 to 8 p.m. Mason families are invited to come and visit with Santa, take pictures in the lobby of the atrium of the community center, which has been decorated. Did want to pause on that. I've received just a huge number of compliments on the lighting, specifically in downtown, that the city installed for the holidays. So want to acknowledge that. All residents have received several compliments, have received a few questions because the lighting does not continue on what's called East Main, so towards Kings Mills. And what we did last week, and the root cause of that is there is just not the electric infrastructure to be able to put the type of lights that the other end of Main has. In an effort to address that, we did try last week, and I think with some success, there are battery-operated lights that have been placed on the trees along that end of Main Street. So it is lit up. The trees aren't as large, and the electric isn't as powerful as you may see on the other end, but does create an atmosphere that tries to continue that theme onto the other end of Main Street. So received compliments, received questions. That's the answer to the question is, if they're the electricity, the outlets, the infrastructure, and it sounds like maybe a simple fix just to add electric. Kurt will educate us at another meeting how many millions it could take in order to get the improvements to actually get the electric there. That's not to say that's not a possibility in the future, but it would be a long-term investment. A couple of other items of notice here. As the holidays approach, city offices will be closed on Monday, December 25th, as well as Monday, January 1st. The community center will be open on those days. It will have more limited services and limited hours, specifically 7 a.m. to noon on the holidays themselves, and then 12 to 4 on Christmas Day and New Year's Day. On a similar vein, this year, because the holidays fall on a Monday, Rumpke Waste and Recycling Services will not occur on the Monday. It will occur the following day, and each day will be bumped thereafter, so that Friday's pickup will actually occur on Saturday, Thursday, and Friday, and so forth. So please be sure and let your neighbors know that so they set their trash out at the right time. The city will begin Christmas tree pickup the week in January. Place their trees unwrapped, no electric, at curbside for pickup. The benefit of doing that is trees, instead of going to Rumpke and going to the landfill, the city will chip those trees and provide those as mulch to local gardeners, composting groups. And then two other items, but first would like to address, there are 2 liquor permits in your packet. The first is for Capel Retail, LLC, doing business as Joe's Quick Marts. That's for a C1, C2, which is beer only in original sealed containers for carryout only until 1 a.m., wine and certain prepackaged mixed drinks in sealed containers for carryout only until 1 a.m. Council can either request a hearing be held or not request a hearing and do that via motion.
Okay.
Motion, I'm sorry.
Do I have a motion to request or not request a hearing for a Class A liquor permit for CAPL Retail LLC, DBA Joe's Quick Marts?
I'll make a motion not to have a hearing.
Okay, second.
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 All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
And one other liquor permit, Mayor. This one I think maybe answer a lot of other questions that have been raised over many months. It is for DLM Springboro LLC, doing business as Dorothy Lane Market. That's for a D1, beer only for on-premises consumption and in sealed containers for carryout until 1 a.m. I think as was mentioned, there was a groundbreaking held for Dorothy Lane Market. Despite whatever rumors, stories to the contrary, I think we fully believe that Dorothy Lane Market is building in Mason, and I think it's a reflection of a lot of anticipation for it. Hopefully, taking care of this liquor permit will just continue the momentum. Council can request a hearing or not via motion.
Which is very exciting. I need a motion to request or not request a hearing for Class A liquor permit for DLM Springboro LLC, DBA Dorothy Lane Market. Do I have a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion not to request a hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
All opposed?
I have one other item, Mayor, which includes a suggestion for council. Earlier this evening, a couple hours ago, we were able to gather with members of the community council at the site of Gould Park. We were able to conduct the official naming of the park, unveil a sign that is there along Mason Road, going towards Grace Church. The park is being named in honor of Eleanor and Richard Gould, who spent their years there on a 50-acre farm that was later sold to the city of Mason. Today would have been Eleanor Gould's 100th birthday, so felt it was a fitting time to hold that ceremony. As well as on your agenda is a resolution to establish the name of Gould Park there. Since we've already unveiled the sign and we do have members of the public here for this, as well as members of the Gould family, I think it'd be appropriate if council would consider moving resolution 2023-34 up on the agenda to address that now.
Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
All opposed?
I think now we can address the resolution. It may be appropriate. I know we have Sharp Pelfrey is out in the audience, former Mayor Sharp Pelfrey, with members of the Averbeck family. If council's willing to recognize them now, I think they may have some words to say. Following that, we could take action on the resolution and present it to the family.
Mayor Nelson, Vice Mayor Chance, members of council, city staff, this is a happy day for quite a few people. I'd like to say personally on behalf of the Pelfrey family and the Averbeck Gould family, we cannot thank you enough for your time and attention to this and bringing this forward. It's a very exciting day. Just to recap how this has come about, the 50-acre park, Gould Park, originally was owned, obviously, was an Indian hunting ground. The Hopewell Indians, the Wyandotte Indians, and the Shawnee Indians were local to this area. And the Averbeck family has a lot of artifacts from the property that it's a lovely souvenir from years gone by. And then obviously the pioneers initially had this, and it was then purchased by William Mason. William Mason kept it for, we're still working on some dates, but his granddaughter actually was a Wyckoff, and we do have Wyckoff in family still in the community, along with Wolfs and a lot of the original William Mason family. The Wyckoffs sold the property to Richard Gould's dad. So that is how it got into the family. In the early 1800s, they built that beautiful farmhouse. And Richard was raised in that house, and then when he married and his family passed, he married Eleanor, and they moved into that home. So we are excited to see this. I want to thank Council of Past that had the foresight to purchase the property and to preserve it by a contract, and it has lasted through the test of time, and now we're going to get to see it come to fruition. Within the group, we have members of the Gould Park Committee, and they have been such an amazing asset to the Gould and Averbeck family. We have the Gould and Averbeck family. We also have Mason Historical Society, who has been very helpful with us. Also Mason community players. So this has been a community effort just to bring this to council's attention and to see it to fruition. We thank you for that. Yes, I would love to invite the Averbeck family. Now, we've had different ones that were able to come to the 5 o'clock and had to leave, and we've also had some that were able to come to 6 but had to leave. But we do have a remnant that's still here, and that's the 7 o'clock Averbeck Gould family. So if they could come on up. We are certainly honored to have them with us. I would like to say hello to Larry. Larry is the eldest. He's the trustee of the family. He had surgery just recently and was not able to get here, but he does send his commendation to council to Mayor Nelson. And he's watching, so we'll have to tell him later that we missed him tremendously. But he's been an amazing asset, a very wise man, and he's also excited to see how this is going to move forward. So if you guys would come on up. And I'll let you introduce yourselves.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Barbara Averbeck-Croman, the number 4 of 10, and I was elected to speak first, so bear with me. First, I'd like to introduce my youngest brother, Ted, his daughter, Brittany, and his granddaughter, first granddaughter, Layla. She just spent a few hours at Children's Hospital the other day, cut her head open. So we were wondering how she was going to hold up, but she's done fine. So we're happy they were able to make it. I just want to say that the Gould Averbeck family would like to thank everyone involved in honoring our aunt, Eleanor Franz Gould, and her wishes for her farm to remain a green space for the city of Mason, Ohio. She was a very special person to a lot of people, as was her husband, our uncle, Richard Gould, and they loved the city of Mason, even though she grew up in Walton, Kentucky, where I'm from. We would also like to acknowledge Sharp Pelfrey and the Save Gould Park Committee for all their hard work during this year's lengthy process. An incredible, grateful thank you specifically to Tony Bradburn and Kathy Grossman for their continued support in fulfilling the obligations agreed to by our aunt and the city of Mason and overcoming all the challenges that have been presented along the way. Our family, the ones present tonight, and all the other family members located, we have some in California. We have Larry, who is in Indiana, Mike, Bruce, Hal, and Mark are all in California, Ted, and then we also have 3 siblings who have passed away, and that would be Matt, Todd, and my sister Donna, who was a twin. So we came from a pretty big Catholic family, and just spread out all over the United States. So they're all happy to be a part of this dedication, honoring our aunt and on what would have been her 100th birthday. We look very forward to seeing Gould Park completed, and thank you for everything you all have done. Thank you.
Oops, sorry about that. Hi, I'm Ted Averbeck. As Barb was saying, I'm number 10, the caboose. Still related as the baby of the family, even though I'm 60. But I want to go and thank the city of Mason, the Save Gould Park, Char Pelfrey and all her family. This has been a tremendous effort in the last year or so, getting this on track the way Eleanor has seen the way her farm wanted to be, a passive park for the community. She wants it there for generations to come. As Barb said, that we're a huge family. I was there to bring up my granddaughter for the first time to the farm, and she got to walk a little piece of it, got to see some of the pictures, and it's going to mean a lot to her when she gets older. We do have other cousins, more generations locally, throughout the United States. The community here has got plenty of generations that have been here that grew up in the city of Mason, just like my uncle. So I want to thank everyone again and appreciate all the hard work. And I know there's more hard work that has to be done in order to get this park built. So it's time to get the sleeves rolled up, open communication with everybody, and let's get it going. We've made a big progress, so let's don't stop. So thank you.
I want to thank you guys for coming. It's so nice to finally get to meet all of you. I know that you probably have wonderful memories of visiting the farm and spending quality time with your aunt and uncle. It's such a great thought to know that in the future, our community, the families and the children, will be able to run around the park and create memories as well. So this is very exciting for our community. So if you'd like to come up, we have a resolution we'd like to present to you. Okay, Resolution 2023-34. You probably don't need to read it since we just read it.
Read the whole thing again?
Okay.
You can move on to the next part there, yeah.
Do you have anything to discuss on it? Okay. All right, I need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
To suspend the rule. I'm sorry.
We already read it.
Right, but you still have to do that one.
Okay, so motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Council discussion? Okay, roll call.
Vice Mayor Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett?
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey?
Yes.
Councilmember Gibson?
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Spaeth?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to move Resolution 2023-35, encouraging Santa to visit all children in Mason and spread Christmas joy, magic, and cheer. If we can move that up as well. Do I have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, would the children like to come up? We're going to have the children read the resolution. Okay, who's going first?
Whereas it is the intention of Santa to spread Christmas joy to all and to remind everyone of goodwill and selfless giving to the city of Mason and across the world, and
whereas Mason residents are encouraged to participate in the various events and activities happening in Mason with family and friends as part of the 2023 Christmas and Mason season in order to share and spread holiday spirit throughout the community. I said that.
whereas Mason City Council encourages Santa and his 9 reindeer led by Rudolph and his red nose, then Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cooper, Donner, and Blitzen to return to Mason on Christmas Eve, and
Whereas it is the power of those who believe that Santa may visit and bless the city of Mason with Christmas joy and cheer, and
whereas Mason City Council wishes Santa and his reindeer a safe flight.
now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Mason, Ohio, that 7 members be elected thereto concurring.
Section 1, that Santa should visit the households of all the good boys and girls within the Mason City corporate limits and beyond.
Section 2, that every Mason child has tried the very best to be good this year.
Section 3, that the Mason community continues to share the power of believing.
Section 4, that as we celebrate the season, we keep in mind those within our community may be struggling without family or in need and to provide a helping hand of kindness.
Section 5, that this resolution shall be in force and become effective from and after the earliest period allowed by law.
Passed this 11th day of December, 2023.
All right.
That was wonderful.
Yes.
And I know all of you. And I know all of you have been very good, so Santa will probably come and bring great gifts for you guys.
You must not live with them.
All right, I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Any opposed? I need a motion to adopt.
So moved?
Second.
Is there any council discussion? Okay, we need to take roll call.
Councilmember Bennett?
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey?
Yes.
Councilmember Gibson?
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Spade,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chance.
Yes.
Okay, now it's time for the Mason Mile update from the MAID CDC.
Hello and good evening, Mayor, members of council, and staff. My name is Casey Richards, and I live at 216 Short Street. I am a board member of the MAID CDC and am also an active volunteer within the Mason Mile Core team. I'm here this evening to share some exciting updates on the Mason Mile project. And since we do have 2 new members of council, we thought that it would be beneficial to provide what we call a rear view mirror moment, which will just provide a quick overview of why we are giving this update this evening. So the Mason Mile project is a community-led, market-driven project that is honoring our history while building into the future a fresh, healthy, and sustainable place for people to live, work, and play. The Mason Mile project has a core team of volunteers consisting of David Charpentier, Annie Droege, Chris Heim, myself, and administrative staff that includes Sherry Taylor. Phase 1 work of the Mason Mile project began in April of 2019 when a community engagement process was initiated to broaden the visioning from beyond just business owners and to include the greater community at large. In March of 2020, the planning efforts to present those Phase 1 findings were put on hold due to the COVID pandemic. And then in April of 2021, officially started the Phase 2 work, and that was initiated by a volunteer team of residents coordinated through the MAID CDC. And that team worked to determine the best way to re-engage the neighborhood and truly understand what the desire from our community was for downtown. In January of 2022, efforts to build a funding partnership between the City of Mason and the MAID CDC began to support the four-phase recommended approach by the MAID CDC, and that would position the MAID CDC as the organization to serve as that coordinating agent for the duration of the project. In May of 2022, legislation was presented to the City Council, and that was to award a $180,000 grant and to complete that Phase 2 of work. So then in October of 2022, a consulting team was identified, and that consulting team consists of Randall Gross from RGDE, Jay Becker from BLDG Brands, and Keith Cummington from Common Ground Urban Design and Planning. So efforts officially kicked off for Phase 2 in December of 2022, and after a year of work by countless individuals, we are here tonight to share that the final reports are just about finalized. They have been, they're long, so it took a while to go through all of them, but just wanted to share a few next steps for all of you. So there will be 2 reports available to the public. One will be the full report, obviously very in-depth and pretty lengthy, but then the other one will be an executive summary of that full report. The consulting team has recommended a rollout to the public in Q1 of this next year, and our team has began work on planning for that event to thank all of our partners for all of the work that has been done over the past year. And then it will also provide some insight into Phase 3 of the project, which will be coming post that rollout. And then prior to the public rollout, the MAID CDC board will also be conducting meetings with our project advisory council, as well as those appropriate leaders from the city to discuss some proposed next steps. So just to, in closing, on behalf of the MAID CDC board, We would just like to wrap up this year by extending our sincerest gratitude to all of you that have been involved in the project. Without the funding partnership agreement with the city and the participation from everyone, from city leaders, staff, volunteers, residents, we are in a collaborative position to now begin taking action on all of the ideas that have come from our community. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate the update. Okay, next we have recognition of visitors. I just want to remind you that there is a 5-minute limit.
Good evening, everyone. My name's John Thompson. I live at 590 Cocinda Lane. I'm here tonight representing the Convention of States. Well, that's what we're trying to get to, actually. We are looking at a government that's fairly broken right now. The Gallup poll does an annual survey, and they found that when they ask people what is the biggest problem we face in the United States, most of the time, 7 out of 10 years in a row, they've said the federal government. I, for one, feel the federal government is rather broken. We have open borders. We have drugs pouring across. We're $34 trillion in debt. We will pass $1 trillion in interest on that debt coming up here soon. And I learned today, listening to the radio, by the end of the month, there'll be 23 million federal employees. So that's probably more than 10% of the workforce, the people that are out there working. The borders are broken, as I mentioned. That many people in Congress have been there 20, 30, 40 years, and they're corrupt. They leave office with tens of millions of dollars in their holdings. Inflation is rising. Well, it might be stabilized now, but it's still very high, and they continue to spend and print money. So we can identify problems, but we really need to do something about them, and that's why we're here representing the Convention of States this evening. Our Ohio legislature is considering passing a resolution to request an Article 5 convention of the states so we can get in and make changes to the Constitution. The amendments would be limited to term limits, balanced budgets, which 70% of the country is in favor of balanced budgets, seems all but the government, and then limiting the power and jurisdiction of the federal governments. Bring things back to the states. We need state control over as much as we can, as our founding fathers had it. Earlier this year, the Ohio House introduced House Joint Resolution 3, or HJR 3, and pardon me, for that very purpose, there are 23 sponsors and co-sponsors. In the near future, the Ohio Senate will introduce the same bill. Article 5 proposes amendments, but it is very strict in reining in the federal government. Absolutely no changes can be made to the Bill of Rights. That's cast in stone. That cannot change. It's only those 3 principles that the Convention of States would like to make amendments to. Earlier this year, Wayne Township passed a non-binding resolution for the Convention of States, and it's being to be considered at the state level. It urges Senator Wilson and Representative Matthews to vote in favor of it. Excuse me. I'm proposing that the City of Mason consider also doing a non-binding joint resolution to give word that hey, the population would like to see Convention of States, raise that up to the state level. I do have copies here of both the Wayne Township and the HJR 3 resolution, which was introduced, and I'd like to pass those out if I may. Thank you for your time, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else that would like to come to the podium and speak? Go ahead. Please say your name and state your address.
My name is Roger Gibb, and my address is 5155 Farm Ridge Way. I've lived in Mason for the past 25 years. So I'm speaking also in support of John Thompson's proposal. John asked you to consider passing a non-binding resolution requesting that Senator Steve Wilson and Representative Adam Matthews support HJR-3 at the state capitol for requesting an Article 5 convention to propose amendments to the Constitution. And as John mentioned, the amendments would be limited to 3 areas: fiscal responsibility, such as a balanced budget amendment, term limits on Congress or other federal officials, and limitations on the power and jurisdiction of the federal government. Human nature is to test one's boundaries. And in the case of the federal government, they have tested their boundaries in terms of spending money, and they've found that there is no boundary. And that is why we're nearly $34 trillion in debt. The interest on the debt alone is approaching the amount that we spend every year for national defense. It's about $700 trillion, or I'm sorry, $1 billion. If we've learned anything from history, is that people must have boundaries. They must have limitations. And that when there are no limits, that eventually they either hurt themselves or they hurt others. And for the safety of America, I submit to you that there need to be limits on the power of the federal government, especially fiscal limitations. National polls consistently show that the balanced budget and term limit amendments to the Constitution are very popular among Americans. Between 70 and 80% of Americans support this. This is not a controversial fringe proposal. This is mainstream. People know that if we don't get our spending under control, there's eventually going to be a collapse. And I think it's about 45 out of the 50 states in the union have balanced budget amendments. So this is mainstream. This is the way everybody operates except the federal government. According to a recent CBS News Money Watch report, inflation has increased 17% in the last 3 years. To the average U.S. household, that equates to about $11,400. So just to maintain one standard of living, the average U.S. household has had to increase their standard or their income by $11,400. So this is hurting people in a very real way, and not just anyone, but people in Mason. And so I ask you to consider this. Would the people of Mason be better off if the federal government lived within its means and stopped overspending its budget? Would the people of Mason be better off if there was a balanced budget amendment, the way that 45 other states in our country have, and that the debt just stopped going up? If your answer to that question is yes, we would be better off, then I invite you to please seriously consider passing a resolution as we're requesting. We'd be happy to answer any questions and address any concerns that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have anyone else? Mr. Looker.
John Looker, 111 East Main Street, Mason. Thank you, Eric, for the lights on my tree. And also, I would like to talk to all the veterans out there. There's a House bill that's sitting on the floor right now. It's House Bill 254. And what that House bill is about is for disabled veterans. What it does is, if you're 50% to 100%, it gives you a reduction on your property tax. Now, being a commissioner for Veterans Service, I would be concerned about that. But whatever that dollar amount is, the state is supposed to return it to our budget. So I would encourage all veterans. I've spoken to Adam Matthews. He is full support of it. Go out and get a hold of your congressman. And I've talked to Steve Wilson also. So please go out and consider talking to them about this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Next on the agenda is ordinance 2023-108. It's the first reading. I need a motion to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Jeff?
Thank you, Mayor. This is no Santa Claus, but I guess I'll read what it. Yes, ordinance 2023-108, amending the zoning code and zoning map of the city of Mason, Ohio to provide for the rezoning of approximately 30.13 acres from B4 commercial recreation to R1 single-family residential located on the east side of Columbia Road, north of Kings Island and south of Kings High School.
Eric?
Yep, this is a first reading. We'd like to set a public hearing for January 8th, 2024.
Okay, excuse me, great. Ordinance 2023-109, it's also the first reading. I need a motion to read by title only.
So moved.
A second? All in favor? Any opposed?
Approval of a major modification to a concept planned unit development plan for the Tower Park development located at 710 Tylersville Road, Tower Park.
Eric?
January 8th, 2024, would like to set a public hearing.
Okay, on to item number 12, which is ordinance 2023-110. I need a motion to read by title only, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed?
Approval of the Greater Cincinnati Water Works, GCWW, easement plat for World Subdivision.
Kurt?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and members of council. This is an easement for water main, and it's basically encompassing a private road that's in the World Subdivision. This will allow both the future hotel and some of the multifamily to get access to water without having to go across Western Row Road multiple times to tap into the water main. So with that, this easement plat did go to Planning Commission last Tuesday, December 5th, and was recommended for adoption. So ordinance 2023-110 is recommended.
Thank you. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second? Anyone?
Second.
All in favor? Need a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion? Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Hackey?
Yes.
Councilmember Gibson?
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Spaeth?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett?
Yes.
Number 13 on the agenda is ordinance 2023-111. I need a motion to read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
An ordinance amending ordinance 2003-137 to extend the term of the exemption period and declaring an emergency.
Kurt?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and members of council. The TIF, the Commerce West TIF District is a TIF that's been in place for 20 years, and state law allows that to continue to 30 years. So what we're proposing is a 10-year extension to this TIF. This has been used for several projects within the TIF district, the most recent of which is the Tylersville and 42 railroad crossing improvement. It was also used for the Tylersville crossing improvements themselves when that went in, and a portion of the Everybody's Farm development. Future projects that these funds would be used for is towards the Snyder Road widening. That'll be done from 42 down to Western Row Road. We also plan for future turn lane improvements at Snyder and Tylersville, and then it could also be used for future resurfacing within the TIF district. And it won't generate enough funds to do all of those projects, but it would help with a portion of it and help fill some funding gaps. The schools will be made whole as with the current TIF in this 10-year extension, and the schools have both been notified and have approved amending the compensation agreement. That was done November 14th. This was discussed at the Finance Committee of Council and recommended for approval. And it also contains an emergency clause so that this can be approved prior to the TIF expiring. And with that, ordinance 2023-111 is recommended for adoption. I'll answer any questions you have.
Okay, I need to, a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, need a motion to adopt.
So moved. Second.
Is there any council discussion? No? All right, roll call.
Councilmember Gibson,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Spaeth,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett,
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey.
Yes.
Okay. Item number 14 on the agenda is ordinance 2023-112. I need a motion to read by title only.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed?
Establishing the 2024 fee schedule for the City of Mason and declaring an emergency.
Jennifer?
Yes, Mayor, members of council, if you will recall, at the November 13th council meeting, council did adopt ordinance 2023-104, which authorized a 2.75% cost of living adjustment for all non-union employees in good standing. That COLA increase also applies for all fees and charges for services in order for the city to cover the cost of city services. The next step in the process is for city staff to update the fee schedule and present it for council for final approval, and that's what you have here before you this evening. Not all fees in the schedules have been delayed, or not all fees in the schedule have been updated. Some may be delayed until they can reflect a whole dollar amount or several dollar amounts. Also remind council that in 2022, we added the community center membership fees along with the aquatic center membership fees to the schedule to make sure they got updated on an annual basis. In 2010, when we established those fees, they had not been updated until 2022, and they were very much not covering our cost of services over the community center. So we have now included those in the fee schedules, and they get adopted or adjusted annually. With that, ordinance 2023-112 is recommended for adoption. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? I need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any council discussion? Okay, let's have a roll call.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Spaeth,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett,
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibson.
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-113. I need a motion to read by title only.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed?
An ordinance authorizing the supplemental appropriations of monies, therefore amending the annual appropriation ordinance number 2022-129 of the City of Mason, Ohio, passed by the Council of the City of Mason, Ohio on December 12, 2022 for the year 2023.
Jennifer?
Yes, Mayor, members of council, for newer council members, these are, the next two ordinances are just basically housekeeping items. We do these on an annual basis. The annual appropriation ordinance, or the budget, is a plan and a guide for expenses for the following year. It also establishes the legal level of control that each department has for line items within their budget. Department heads are responsible for reviewing line items and maintaining positive balances within their legal level of control for their budgets. When priorities shift throughout the year and line items become impacted, department heads first attempt to make changes within their legal level of control. When priorities have exceeded the department head's ability to move funds within their legal level of control, council action in the form of a reappropriation, fund transfer, and/or supplemental ordinance is necessary. Unlike the federal government, the city cannot close its books until all funds and accounts are brought back to a positive balance. In short, the reappropriation ordinance before you tonight simply attempts to move money from accounts with positive balances to accounts with negative balances, again, to help with that flexibility the departments need throughout the year when it comes to changing priorities. Ordinance 2023-114 also authorizes fund transfers. Fund transfers used to move money, to move fund balances to reserve funds, contingency funds, or even capital funds, and continue the city's strong fiscal conservative budgeting practices. It is also used to reimburse for previous advancements to funds. It may be required as part of a court order or used to cover debt service payments and deficits. Finally, Ordinance 2023-113, the Supplemental Appropriation Ordinance. It is the final adjustments that is needed for any remaining line items that are in the red. There are 14 supplementals. 3 are for transfers that I previously described. 7 are for increases that are needed due to those changing priorities, and 4 are actually reductions to ensure budgetary compliance as required by law. With that, ordinances 2023-113 and 114 are recommended for adoption. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? I need a motion to adopt.
So moved. Second.
Any council discussion? Roll call.
Mayor Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett,
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibson,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula.
Yes.
Number 16 on the agenda is ordinance 2023-114. I need a motion to read by title only.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
An ordinance authorizing the reappropriation and transfer of monies and transferring other funds and appropriations for the current expenses of the City of Mason, therefore amending the annual appropriation ordinance number 2022-129 of the City of Mason, Ohio, passed by the Council of the City of Mason, Ohio on December 12, 2022 for the year 2023.
Thank you. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? I need a motion to adopt.
So moved. Second.
Is there any council discussion? You guys are quiet tonight. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Spaeth,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett,
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibson,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes. Ordinance 2023-115. I need a motion to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed?
The 2024 annual appropriation ordinance.
Eric?
I was reminded today that not everyone cares about this ordinance as much as I do, and that nobody wants to listen to everything I know about it. So I'm going to try and be very brief this year, unlike maybe previous years. This is the annual budget. It is the result of significant work, both from staff as well as the Finance Committee. Employee Relations Committee usually initiates this process. That is done. There have been multiple meetings with the Finance Committee. Instead of telling you where all of the pennies are planned for, I'll give several messages and then maybe a couple of key projects to keep in mind. The budget continues to be undergirded by very conservative financial assumptions, both on revenue, that we underestimate revenue, and then we try to overestimate expenses, or what we call worst-case scenarios. But it's key to remember at its core, the budget is simply a planning document. As far as council is concerned, it does not constrain or exclude what you're able to do in the next fiscal year, but it does provide a guide to staff, largely on projects that we begin planning for. All items of significance as far as projects must return to council. That constitutes the bulk of the work that you take on through the coming year as far as authorizing moving forward with the expenditure to move those projects forward. This year, and this is intended to kind of capture some of the big picture discussion that the Finance Committee went through. In previous years, there's been a significant emphasis on capital projects. And while that continues, like last year, we're also cognizant that time is an asset that is also limited, and that we have suffered in past years by maybe over-planning or overextending the number of projects that we could feasibly take on. More attention will continue to be made on operations to make sure that our capacity to maintain the assets that the city has put in place is realigned with the increasing reality. That means investments in people, time, and our capacity to manage those. A couple of other, I would say 3 items that were part of the discussion are significant to the 2024 budget is the what I would characterize as the regional lift that was undertaken by the city in order to preserve tennis, both in the city as well as in the county and as in the state. That involved a lot of partners. The city took a leadership role in that throughout the state of Ohio, and as well as committed, for the time being, significant financial dollars. Per our finance director, and that worst case scenario, we did allocate the maximum financial exposure that the city would have in that. That is a constraint on next year's budget as far as a planning process. Secondly, we are still continuing to monitor the impact that work from home policies have generated on the city's primary revenue stream, which is earnings tax. So that was another caution in the economy. And third, conservative factors, continuing optimism for the economy, but as far as the budget's concerned, we're very cautious. The economy is probably the most significant risk to the city's financial health, because we do rely on the earnings tax, which relies on residents as well as businesses generating strong payroll numbers. So those are the risks that, I shouldn't say entirely risks, but some of the encumbrances on this year's budget process. The 2024 budget does continue to include aggressive investment in capital. $21.8 million is anticipated for capital expenses, and I will now list every single, keep in mind that several of these capital projects often have a multiple year time frame. You may start design in 1 year, and then 3-4 years later, as you accrue the funding, maybe some of the execution. But amongst the projects that are included in the budget is continued work on State Route 741 streetscape as part of the urban paving plan, acquisition of right-of-way at Tylersville and Mason Montgomery for the intersection improvement there, continued investment at the Safety Service Center Annex for both police, fire, and training, enhancements to McKeno Park. Those are budgeted because we are optimistic that between grant and private donations, we'll be able to continue to move forward on that project. Some enhancements at the Municipal Center to focus on employee retention and attraction. Investments in sewer, the Arbor Creek Lift Station. Drainage improvements in the West Line area. One new item, we have been forestalling improvements to Heritage Oak Park tennis and pickleball courts after discussion with the Finance Committee, at least for a temporary repair for the next several years to bring those courts up to more playable status. Mobile data computer replacements in the police department, and at the US 42 Heritage Oak Park, flooding that has been encountered on 42, some design work with an eye towards improving that situation. One item did want to feature the city's, our reputation as a premier community is really undergirded by a history of strong focus on planning, documents such as the budget, but a number of other planning instruments that provide us a reference point. And I think the recognition is that many of those are ready for updates, additional public input, additional validation from others. And so one of the items in the budget is what's called a strategic prioritization plan. That's likely going to include multiple phases over several years. Will require public as well as professional input and council discussions as we move forward on starting to look at all of these planning documents, provide perhaps more comprehensive picture of all the planning instruments that we do have at our disposal. But the initial focus the initial effort is going to focus on validating and articulating the city's business model. Because essentially it's the business model that drives the finances, which is really the key ingredient to our success, both in our ability to provide the services and the amenities that Mason residents enjoy. So perhaps some time to revisit some of those fundamentals on why we have been successful, everything from our bond rating, our capacity to pay off debt, and our ability to invest in the future. We want to take a holistic picture, involve others in that process to make sure we revisit kind of the fundamentals that have led to the city's success. That's what I would see as the initial effort, and I would expect from that is additional updates, professional advice to help us update a variety of other planning documents beginning in 2024. Additional capital infrastructure, does anyone still care, or should I just have that?
That's your 5 minutes.
Okay, we're going to continue investing in golf. There are a couple of projects here that are in the budget, but we don't know that time will allow us to move forward on those. Continued aggressive investment in street maintenance, equipment, resurfacing. I typically talk about our set-aside program, and everyone stopped caring as much as I do about that. I think with that, the 2024 budget is a guide for city operations. There are a number of items that council will need to readdress that will be a topic of discussion both for committees, staff, as well as council. But I do remain confident that the budget is a fiscally prudent approach to municipal finances, positions the city to continue to stay in a premier position, and it does remain with a workforce committed to cost savings, efficiency, as well as sound investment in that business growth. With that, thank the Finance Committee, who has met on multiple occasions, significant time to review, discuss, and adjust both these big picture concepts as well as review the specifics of the plan document. With that, the committee is recommending ordinance 2023-115 be adopted.
Okay, thank you.
And that was the brief version.
Brief version. Well, I know Joe probably had a lot to do with that, so if you can thank him for all of his hard work from us, we would appreciate it.
Joe who? He's watching. You know he's watching.
Is he? He is our finance guru here, and he is extremely intelligent. So I've always been very impressed by him. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? I need a motion to adopt.
So moved. Second.
Any council discussion?
Mayor,
Yes.
I just wanted to let Eric know that I care. I care.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'm just glad he didn't take an hour and 8 minutes like he did last year over this thing. I appreciate the condensed version. And John and Roger, our federal government could definitely take some pointers from the city of Mason, how prudent we are physically. I mean, it's fiscally. It's always, I've served on the finance committee, and it is so impressive in regards to how we not only a balanced budget, but we're always in a surplus, and what we're able to do with our monies here, with our tax bases that we have here in the city. And you know, we know Joe's watching, but we certainly have staff that care about that, because I always view government as like, wouldn't we want to run it like our household? And, you know, nobody wants to go out there and spend more than we have. And we do a very, very good job here at the city, and I greatly appreciate staff and everyone behind the scenes that, you know, work hard to maintain the premier status that the city has, but also making sure that we keep those constraints on spending. So well done, again. So.
Anyone else? We are very conservative in our budgeting, which has proven to be very successful for our city. Again, it's because of Joe's.
Not Eric.
And Eric. Okay, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett?
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey?
Yes.
Councilmember Gibson?
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Spaeth?
Yes.
We're at number 18 on the agenda, ordinance 2023-116. I need a motion to read by title only.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed?
Authorizing the city manager to approve a change order to the contract with Sunessis Construction Company to the US 42 Roundabouts project in the amount of $125,000.
Kurt?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Our staff tries very hard to bring projects in under budget, and occasionally we're unsuccessful, and this US 42 Roundabouts project was one of those. We had, I think, 9 overhead and underground utilities to relocate for that project, which is, in theory, a simple project. You take 2 3-legged intersections, put roundabouts, and connect them together. But really, the underground and overhead utility relocation is what delayed the project through the winter. The plans were set up to be basically up to the surface course of the pavement prior to winter. So some of the costs, additional costs, were to pave it so that it could make it through the winter, and then once the utility relocation was complete in the spring, to finish up the project. We also had some of the force main, which is a plastic pipe that we identified during construction, that more of that need to be relocated than was previously planned with the design plans. And that's a majority of the additional costs for the project. I'm happy to report we get tons of compliments to that project, how much safer both intersections are and how much the backups have been reduced. So overall, I'd say the project is a success. But to complete it, we do need $125,000 original to the contract with Synesis. Fortunately, during the project, Synesis also had crews on State Route 741, so when there was times when the utility companies had us delayed, we were able to put additional Synesis crews on 741 and finish that project on time. So we did try to keep both projects moving as much as possible with the delays, and I know I got some residents that complain about it just dragging, and I was one of those complainants as well. So with that, ordinance 2023-116 is recommended, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have about the project.
Thank you, Kurt. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? I need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I just want to thank Kurt for his work on this. As I've mentioned in here many, many times, I am a huge, huge advocate of roundabouts. I think they are one of the best inventions on any roadway. I spent many years driving them in England, and they're awesome. They've proven themselves very valuable in our community, and thank you for your work on that. And Councilmember Stricula, you'll have to get over the delays.
I knew it was him. I knew it was you. Complain.
Anyone else?
Mayor, I feel like I need to respond. I was just passing along complaints from my household, not necessarily me. They are very nice. They look great. Yeah.
Okay, anyone else?
Mayor?
Yes.
Real quick, I would like to point out, too, when it comes to these projects, we do a really good job of offsetting a lot of our costs through grants, too. And I don't know the exact numbers on what this roundabout was, but I would guess it's typically probably 70% of the cost.
Yeah, it was grants.
Yeah, so, we do a really good job of making sure that we help get that offset from grants, and we do a fantastic job of those, so.
Okay. Anyone else? Call roll.
Councilmember Bennett?
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey?
Yes.
Councilmember Gibson?
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Spaeth?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chance?
Yes.
Okay, now we are on to committee reports. Does anyone have a committee report that they would like to give? No? Okay. At your desk, you should have a chart with your committee assignments. I just want to say, I've really been impressed with this downtown development project. Mark and Councilmember Hackey and Councilmember Stricula have really played an instrumental role in moving the project forward, of course, with Vice Mayor Chance as well. They play an important role. They are also on the advisory board for the CDC, and I really hope that in the future, when Vice Mayor Chance and myself are off of council, when we term out, that the two of you really continue to lead this project and move it forward, because you both are doing such a great job on it. I I need a motion to approve the appointing of committee and the boards.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay. Number 20, old and new business.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
Yes, I'm
Or
sorry.
sorry, are we on to old and new business, you said?
Yes.
Okay. I forgot my iPad, so I don't have it in front of me, but I would like to make a motion to add the ordinance that Jeff Forbes, our legal counsel, had put in our packet in regard to imposing a moratorium for a period of 360 days on the granting of any permit allowing adult use cannabis operators within the city of Mason, Ohio, and declaring an emergency. And I believe that's number 2023-117, is that correct?
Yes, it is correct.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion to add that to the agenda.
Okay. Do we have a motion? Or you made the
I made
motion,
the
so we
motion.
need a second.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed?
So now it's been added to the agenda, so council can, we would just proceed with it like any other ordinance.
Okay.
Read it by title only, if that's what you'd like, and
Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion to read by title only?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Ordinance 2023-117, imposing a moratorium for a period of 360 days on the granting of any permit allowing adult use cannabis operators within the city of Mason, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Okay. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? I need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second?
Any council discussion?
Mayor, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, because the reason I made the motion is basically for this reason. I know everyone has heard in the news now that recreational use of marijuana is allowed in the state of Ohio. But if you've been paying attention, you've also seen that the state legislators are very fluid right now in making changes. There's a lot that we still don't know and understand. We're not even for sure, I think, what that means for local governments. I mean, I've heard some things, but so I think it's really important for us to go ahead and put this hold on what we decide here until we get more information. I think this probably should be referred to one of our committees so that they can study it more, get more information, and report back to council so that we can make a proper decision in regard to, I guess it's basically allowing dispensaries maybe in the city. I'm not even for sure what all we can possibly regulate or not regulate. And also, we need to consider, a couple years ago, we imposed a zoning that did not allow for medical marijuana dispensaries to be allowed in the city. So if this council decides that we are going to allow for recreational use dispensaries, I think we're going to have to reconsider the medical marijuana, because it would not make any sense that we would allow for recreational dispensaries and not medical marijuana. So there's a lot to be considered. So that's why I think it's important that we give us some time and not be rushed into what our decision may be in regard to this.
Okay, thank you. And Councilmember Spaeth, you are the chair of the Rules Committee, and I think this would fall under the Rules Committee.
Okay, I was going to ask you, I'm not even sure what the Rules Committee is supposed to be doing, but okay.
I believe that would fall under the Rules Committee.
Okay.
Okay, does anyone else have any old or new business? Yes, Councilmember Hackey.
Mayor, I still wanted to comment on the proposed ordinance. I'm in complete agreement with Councilmember Spaeth. You know, there are so many unknowns with this right now from the state. And if we were to sit back and not do this more, and I had a lot of concerns about this, and I spoke to our legal director earlier this evening. We need to make sure that all of the state rules and all of everything surrounding this is in place before we do anything that we may regret later. So I am absolutely 100% in support of delaying this. I had concerns about making it 360 days versus 180, but we can always suspend, or I guess eliminate the legislation at any point if it becomes clear what does and does not make sense for our city with regard to issue 2. So I'm fine with the 360 days, so I completely support this. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Mayor, sorry.
Yes.
If I can, I just think, and if we're going to be prudent with our finances, I think we can be prudent here with this. I think moratorium's a fine idea.
Okay, great. Anyone else? Okay, I had a National League of Cities. Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize, we need roll call.
Councilmember Hackey?
Yes.
Councilmember Gibson?
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Spaeth?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett?
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone have any other old or new business? Okay. The National League of Cities Small Cities Council met in November to discuss attracting and creating small businesses within our community and what we can do at the local level to support the small businesses. The Small Business Administration came to speak with us. They talked about business creation from within the community versus importing from outside the community. Business sales are generated from existing untapped demand versus trying to manufacture a demand. They addressed ways to connect businesses with small business resources. We also discussed grants, which generally there are no grants directly for small businesses for general startup and growth financing, but there are at times grants available to third parties to support the small businesses. I created a small business committee, which will have Councilmember Hackey, who is retired but owned a very successful small business for many years, and Councilmember Bennett, who currently owns a small business. The three of us will be on the committee. I will bring the information that I learned, and we'll share it with all of you, and we will meet back and discuss it. Another topic that was addressed at the National League of Cities Small Cities Council meeting was the arts. One Nation, One Project presented to our group, and the focus of this organization is the health benefits that came along with the arts. Arts participation is associated with better mental health, lower risk of depression, enhanced health behaviors, reduced loneliness, and promotes healthy aging. And I will also bring this information back to our arts committee. So that was a fun meeting. Okay, now we are back to recognition of visitors. Would anybody like to speak? Mr. Looker. Probably one of my favorite people here in Mason.
I'd like to thank the City of Mason for our Veterans Day ceremony. I think I've gotten a lot of comments from about everybody that it was very nice. And I'd like to thank Councilman Hackey, Councilman Stricula, and Mayor Nelson, who is about to leave the committee, for all the help that they've given us throughout the years making this possible. I'd also like to thank Eric and Jennifer and Jenna. I know Jenna's probably watching, so thank Jenna for everything they've done to make that possible. It's a beautiful memorial. I think it's the best in the state. And thank all of you for your support.
Thank you.
John Looker, 111 East Main.
Thank you, and I just want to address, I've been on the Veterans Board I've served 8 years, and when I made the committee assignments, I did put Vice Mayor Chance on the Veterans Board because he has expressed an interest, and I feel like it's good to get new people, new ideas, and to have a different view in some of the committees. So we will look forward to Vice Mayor Chance being part of that board. Okay, next is executive session. I need a motion to adjourn into executive session for the purpose of discussing acquisition and disposition of property.
Mayor, and there's actually going to be one other reason
Okay.
that we can add. Sorry, there's going to be one other reason for the executive session, and it may be easier if I just
Okay, go ahead.
as it's one of the more complicated reasons. But in addition to the acquisition and disposition of property, also to consider confidential information related to the marketing plans, specific business strategy, production techniques, trade secrets, or personal financial statements of an applicant for economic development assistance, or to negotiations with other political subdivisions respecting requests for economic development assistance, provided that the conditions of 121.22 G8A and B are both met.
Thank you. I'm glad you did that. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn. Do I have?
So moved.
Oh, I'm sorry, into executive session.
Second.
Okay? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gibson,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Spaeth,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett,
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey.
Yes.
All right.